Let's get into a little bit of news.
Okay.
We wanted to talk about some of the hubbub.
There's a couple things.
Physical and digital, and the inevitable way of the future, which you are all for. Mm-hmm. You're on board with a no physical games future.
I don't know if I would say I'm all for it. I will say that I'm participating in it completely. So I'm not helping the cause if you don't like it. But I'm with you in spirit. I'm just not on the picket lines because I'm downloading too many games on my PlayStation.
Are you worried about, like, with the news of the PlayStation Store deleting?
Yeah, totally. It's sad that, like, some of my ideas were like, well, I guess if those games go away, I already played them.
Yeah.
But then I thought, like, that is such a terrible.
Consumer.
Like, it's just a terrible position to be in where you're like, well, there's so many games. I guess it's fine if they start disappearing.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, no, I would much rather them all be available.
Yeah.
Even if I don't buy them, I would like to be I wish I was the odd man out. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm just buying it digitally. But the reality is there's so many games that, like, they don't work when they get shut down. Like, a physical copy doesn't even do you any good anymore.
Right, yeah.
So I don't know. It's not great. So I care about preservation even though I don't participate in it because I think things should be preserved.
So you're just like a hypocrite.
I'm basically huge hypocrite. I'm solidarity from my couch. I'm never going to get up to help you guys.
Because you're streaming too many games and you can't get up.
I've downloaded too many games that I can't play them. I download so many games that I don't even remember to play games that I bought.
Yeah. I wonder.
I mean, you have somewhat of a problem with that, but you have a reason, I guess.
Small problem, but the issue I wonder about, truly, if you're really to reckon with this, how many times do you go look at these new exciting games coming out? But I'm going to pull a GameCube game off of the shelf. Right. How many times do we go back to our old games to begin with? It is a fair question, and it is one that I think is probably one that is worth reckoning.
I'm looking forward to the collapse of the modern game system so that I have nothing else to play and can just be like, well, it's time to just start playing Super Nintendo games again.
Yeah, come back to my house.
I'm actually looking forward to that.
I've got a few of them.
Yeah, you do. Well, so, one of the big news things was, we've been hearing rumors all over of these kinds of things, but there's now images that are sort of, I guess, supporting this rumor even more, because now there's physical evidence of it, of an all-white, all-digital Xbox Series X.
How about it?
Now, the S is all digital already, right?
Already.
Okay. So the X was the one that you bought if you wanted to buy discs.
Yes.
So now they're going to make it so that there's a potential that if they stop making the Series X, that line, then they make just this one, that there isn't an Xbox that will take a disc.
Yes.
Now, PlayStation's kind of doing the same thing, right? The PlayStation Slim has
buy the extra disc drive.
You got to buy an extra disc drive. Xbox could do the same thing.
They could.
They could sell you a disc drive, but, like, what if the disc drive breaks? What if there's weird, sometimes where they would, like, pair the disc drive to the console itself so you could never resell it, or, like, you can never... There's all kinds of ways that could go bad. It certainly seems like this is happening. So we already have two of the big three sort of making it more difficult to put a disc in.
Yes.
I know we haven't talked in a while, but we were getting ready for a Switch 2 this year, and now it sounds like that's not going to happen. Sounds like it's going to happen early next year. But is the Switch going to have? I'm assuming yes, but is it going to have a card slot?
Yeah. Okay. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me in this day and age. Go back to why we had discs and cartridges in the first place, because someone made some data.
Yep.
A game in the form of data, and then they put that on something that was then mass produced so that people could enjoy it. But now you don't need to distribute the data in the same way.
No.
Now, part of distributing that data was, we got to sell this thing. So let's make some cool cover art for it. Mega Man 1 comes to mind immediately, of course.
Yep.
If
you're in North America,
Ninja with
for
his
sure.
sweet little ponytail.
Yep.
That was one option, you know, and then the manual, that was a good time. I got to read that when I would bring it home from the rental store. I don't have that experience anymore. I get a little insert if I'm lucky with maybe some DLC on it. At most, an advertisement. That's kind of it.
You know, it's weird that you say that because, like, it feels like that's super old, but I did that with the original Xbox when I was working at IKEA.
Yeah.
I bought Fable on my way into work.
You're just reading the manual.
And at lunch, I was just sitting there reading the manual, looking through it, being like, I wish I was home playing this right now.
That was part of the experience
That wasn't that... I mean, that was a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't like the Super Nintendo age. It was...
That was over 20 years ago. Okay, that was a long time ago. So... Because Xbox came out in what, 2000?
It came out in 2001, but Fable came out in 2004. It would have been 2004.
So it was 20 years ago.
20 years
2024.
Gee.
What the heck? Anyway, that was back when you had hair.
I did have hair.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but I still had some.
Yeah, we do that. But the point of all of this, Josh, that I'm trying to make right now is this. That I think that now that we have the modern convenience of digital platforms, we now have more people who can make games than could ever make them before.
Yes, correct.
They can show us their good gameplay, design ideas, and talent in ways they never could before.
Yep.
Just like you can with every single industry, video editing, music creation, filmmaking, everything now you can, it's so much more in the hands of the creator than it's ever been.
Totally. And obviously it is great for, you know, to be able to put out games and to have them, it comes out for everyone, they download it. Hey, there's a bug. Hey, we put out a patch now because you got it digitally. Now that, of course, people abuse that by like making broken games immediately and just saying we'll patch it later.
Yeah,
but
Star Wars Battlefront.
Totally.
Yeah.
But there are situations like Metroid Other M, which had a game-breaking bug on the Wii. They didn't have the ability to patch games on the Wii.
Yeah.
You'd have to send your save card in to Nintendo for them to manually fix it one by one.
Yeah, that's rough.
So, you know, if what's better, you got to on the other side. It's better. Or like some Super Nintendo games, it's just like, well, there's just a bug. GoldenEye, those proximity mines don't fall.
Yeah.
They're never going to fall.
Yeah.
That we forgot that bug and we printed 1 million of those cards.
But that's the fun thing is that it becomes a part of the game is the bugs and everything and all of that, which is not the way it's supposed to be, but it's the way it is. Long story short, now we're at this point in the future where we go digital only. The problem I think people have is they're like, I paid for this, I should be able to have it forever.
Correct.
The problem, friends, is that everything that we buy is in a constant state of deterioration, and everything we have is, including our own bodies and everything else. And so some of it is grappling with the idea of ownership and what is it that you actually own.
Right.
And like essentially Xbox, I think, is saying we're gonna let you own the experience of playing a lot of games, but not necessarily the games themselves. And their service, I think, is great, but also that's as an old school gamer, that's not what I come to the Xbox Series X in mind with, is to get the experience of downloading and playing the games. I want the experience of owning the games,
right?
But I can't own them the way that I can own other things, and that's ultimately I think where the crux of the argument is what am I actually paying for?
Correct.
And I don't know.
You know, you could make an argument that you ask the same question of what you're paying for when you go to the movie theater and you buy a movie ticket. Mm-hmm. What did you pay for? You paid for the experience.
Yes.
That's it.
You don't own the movie.
You don't own the movie. You don't get to take it home. You don't get to do anything with it. In fact, you're limited by the exact way that you can experience that movie, which is to sit very specifically in a certain area and look at a very specific screen. You can't pause it. Yep. You can't get popcorn for a reasonable price.
The sound might be good or bad.
Sound might be good or bad. You certainly can't turn it up or down.
Nope.
That might be the argument they make. Now, movie tickets cost too much already, but they don't cost $70.
They don't cost $70. Although I would say that games are cheaper now than they have ever
been. It is true. That is true.
I was looking at a Toys R Us ad ad. I screenshotted it, where it was listing all of the prices of this brand new N64 console just come out. Guess how much Turok 1 was in
cart.
that ad? for a brand new, copy from Toys R Us. Guess how much that costs?
I'm gonna say $79.
$74.99.
$74.99
in 1998.
Yeah, that's 98 money. That's not now money either.
So that's roughly double that now in inflation, maybe.
Probably around.
So let's go a little. Let's say it's $130 to play Turok brand new, which is not too far off what a boxed copy is.
You know how much I paid for Super Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo?
$100.
$90 at Target.
Yeah.
And that was $90 in like '94.
Yeah.
Right.
So almost $200.
Almost, back then, it wasn't exactly analogous, but you almost knew like, well, I'm paying $90 for this game because this is a good game.
Yeah.
Like you can get Virtual Bart for $40.
Yeah.
Virtual Bart's not a very good game.
No.
But it specifically had to do with just the amount of RAM chips they put on the cart because they used to put physical hardware.
Yeah.
On the actual, that's when they talk about the Super FX chip. That chip is in the cart itself.
Right.
So they put technology in the carts. So Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy III, these big games you're saying, they took up more RAM, so they were more expensive to make.
Yes.
Physically. So it wasn't exactly meant. What it meant is that this game might have a lot more length to it. Not necessarily good.
Yeah.
But that's how that would work. It's wild to think of, but I didn't play anywhere near the amount of games that I play now.
No. Well, what I wonder about is not only not playing near the amount of games as we do today, but I wonder if we think of it as consumers, if I'm the game publisher, manufacturer, distributor, whoever's collecting the money at the end of the sale, which I guess would be the publisher.
Yep.
I wonder if they realize what they're selling the gamer, because this is, I think, really important. When we had somebody on recently, they were talking to us about who was not able to actually appear in the episode.
Because the audio went.
Yeah. But it was interesting because they work for a major game studio, and we were kind of just talking with them about what's there. And I was like, well, what about limited run games? When everything goes digital, do they just go out of business?
Right.
And they made the argument that, like, well, collectors are still going to want to get cool things to go with their game. So, yes, it might come with that digital code or whatever because that hand is forced because a console won't be able to take an actual cartridge. But it's going to come with the cool art book and CD and all that stuff that we collectors supposedly want because certainly we're opening all those things up and putting them in and listening to them. Right, guys?
Right.
Not always. So,
Not always.
Anyway, the point of it being that... I wonder if there's like a middle road on this. I think what we're going to be start to see is a collector's edition will just be an edition that has physical items to go with the game.
Yep.
Not
and
necessarily really big, but just maybe a little bit small, and then a code or whatever. Like the way they've done with the God of War games and Horizon, it came with a steelbook and a digital code, but no actual physical game.
Or for some of the special editions for multi-platform games, they only make one of them. They're like, we're not going to make a PlayStation or Xbox one. We'll let you pick the code you want.
Right.
Out of the edition you want, but here's the same stuff because it's the same statue and it's the same trading cards and it's the same. Man, there's some digital editions now that I'm thinking of. Like, I think I'd rather like that would physical thing would be cooler than like the game disc.
Yeah.
Barely want the game disc. Yeah. But here's the big question I have for you.
Let's go.
As a collector expert.
Okay.
A genius collector.
Your words, not mine, but I won't disagree. If
the Xbox is the new line of Xbox, they're like, we're done. There's no more disk drives in.
Yes.
Every Xbox Series X and S after this will be digital only.
Yeah.
What happens to the X? That means that they stop make. Well, maybe they would still make Xbox games on. But let's just say they go far enough to where they don't even make now. Within a generation of it, they're no longer even putting the games out on disc. What happens to the library of Xbox Series S and X discs now? Do they become collectors? Like, do they become more valuable because now they are a thing, but there's less things that can play them?
This is really the question I think a lot of people are hedging some bets on right now.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Because, like, the question is, will it make the prices go up or will they go in the trash because they're useless?
Exactly.
And ultimately, those old discs for the Xbox, for the PS4, the PS5, the Xbox Series X, even the 360 PS3, all of those discs have updates to go along with them to make them fully playable, fully optimized. And so, what are you actually getting on the disc? So, would it be collectible? And I would say only in those cases where there's those delisted games like Spec Ops, the line just got delisted, and maybe that's the only way you're going to play it. I think what's happening is like I was on a podcast recently with Radical Reggie and Figsy and Joe Rad, and one of the things that they said was he was joking. Joe Rad was joking about he was gonna buy a bunch of different PS3s, throw every game into him, download all the updates, and have them saved on his hard drive so that like he
basically becomes the update server going forward.
Yeah, which I think like I've never,
not a terrible idea.
I've never been surprised at the ways that gamers solve this kind of problems due to the passion of gamers in general. Like we love our consoles, we love our systems, we love
Sometimes
playing.
people just like problems too. They're like, I can solve this problem.
Yeah,
Like
and it's cool because they're good solutions.
Do you know much about this is like a tangent, but like the PT like story?
Yes, and the PlayStations with that demo on it are worth $1,000,
which is crazy because people did make a way for you to, if you had the license, that's tied to your account and the console. They took it off the server so PT couldn't be downloaded anymore, even if you had the license. But then people made an alternate server where you could get a copy of the data, but you still, if you didn't have the license, like the entitlement, essentially, on your authorized to your console, you couldn't get it. Yeah, that's wild.
It is wild. I think all the panic, there will still be new games being made. Although the games industry in general feels like it's in pure chaos and fire right now.
Yeah, totally.
At some point it will settle and we will find a norm. But I think one of the things to appreciate is that when the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo 64, and let's say even up to like the GameCube, PS2, Xbox generation of games, maybe a little bit later, the pace at which technology has moved through all those generations has been fast but very slow.
Yeah.
Compared to today,
where
it seems like every month you can go so much more power, so much more speed, so much faster, and do so much more that it's just sort of like it doesn't make a lot of sense to have physical media in the same way anymore, because that game that got released a year ago, some developers could maybe optimize it a little bit more with some new updates. Even the idea of a home console with which to play games, I wonder if it's just going to all go to streaming at some point. Granted, there are parts of the country and the world where that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think that just from the way that technology works today, you can't take the mindset that we have from the 90s, from the 80s and before, and apply that to 2024 and beyond. It's two totally different worlds with how things are made and with what you get for your money. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if the point of this is to sit down and have an interesting experience and to have an entertaining experience and a moving experience with the aid of a video game, whether that's through Apple Vision, through VR, through holding a controller traditional style, I'm really curious. And I'm aging up, we're aging up to the point where like our taste in games, I don't need the craziest, gnarliest thing. That's not what I'm looking for anymore, is those graphics to wow, that's, feels a certain way. I just want to have fun playing the game, which is why I can go to the Switch. And my daughters got so into Princess Peach, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Okay, yeah.
But they didn't care about how realistic everything looked. They were just having a blast.
Right.